Hello, I am William Baugh. This is my Psych in Film project over Katniss Everdeen, and specifically The Hunger Games Catching Fire. This is a brief character description of Katniss Everdeen. I am particularly analyzing her character in The Hunger Games Catching Fire, which is the sequel to The Hunger Games. Some background information. This character is played by Jennifer Lawrence. They survived and won the 74th Hunger Games, a brutal and traumatic experience for 24 children between the ages of 12 and 18, which must fight to the death to claim the title of victor. She is under a surveillance state ruled by the Capitol, which threatens the livelihood of herself, her family, her loved ones, and her entire society. This is all set in a future allegory of North America. She hunts, sings, and cares for her family. And in this particular movie, she is going to be forced to endure the 75th Hunger Games and revisit a lot of that trauma due to her eventual becoming of this rebellious figurehead. For my character diagnosis of Katniss Everdeen, I diagnosed her with PTSD. A brief description of PTSD, or post-traumatic stress disorder, is that it's classified as a trauma and stress-related disorder. Typically, a individual will be exposed to, witness, or experience a traumatic event, such as actual or threatened death, serious injury, or sexual violence, some of these of which she did experience in her first Hunger Games. Some symptoms of PTSD include flashback, avoidance of stimuli, distressing memories, detachment, persistent negative emotional state, irritability, outbursts, and jumpiness. Evidence for Katniss Everdeen's diagnosis of PTSD has strong indicators such as a life-threatening situation, the 74th Hunger Games she was recently in, flashbacks which she experiences at the beginning of the movie and not really represented anywhere else, nightmares and trouble sleeping, which is reflected and shown throughout the movie, and irritability, which is shown also throughout the movie towards her other fellow tributes. Weaker indicators are avoidance of stimuli, outbursts, and persistent negative emotions. These are seen in later installments of the Hunger Games, and I believe this is to show that PTSD is a progression rather than an instantaneous event. The impact of PTSD upon Katniss Everdeen affects her in multiple ways. Personally, she experiences frequent nightmares and intense flashbacks, which can be difficult for her to discern from reality and constantly needs grounding. Socially, she experiences paranoid behavior and trust issues, especially in the Hunger Games arena. Professionally, as a representative of her district, she underperforms in capital terms, and this eventually leads the Capitol to send her into the 75th Hunger Games. A treatment plan for Katniss Everdeen to reduce the effects of PTSD are social and familial support, cognitive and behavioral therapy, and also talk therapy. My reasoning for this is that cognitive and behavioral therapy can help her build more positive associations and with herself and get rid of some of the self-defeating behaviors she has that are associated with the Hunger Games and things that she had to do in there to survive. She can also learn to process some of her earlier trauma from her childhood through talk therapy. I believe this would be beneficial to help her sort of cover some of the issues she has with starvation and her father's death in the earlier films. Some ethical concerns I have are boundaries, risk of re-traumatizations, especially directly after the Hunger Games, structured treatment, informed consent, and confidentiality. Situational hindering that could prevent this treatment is that this takes place in war times. There's constant pressure from the government to induce trauma upon her, and also she is, within the 75th Hunger Games, a revisitation of a traumatic experience for herself. Some broader perspectives to include about PTSD. Through the portrayal in this film, it was fairly accurate. It was sometimes overshadowed by the plot. There were subtle reminders throughout the film, and I will say it was often shown as overly aggressive sometimes. Some stigmas around PTSD include dangerousness, personal weakness or emotional instability, soldier stigma, internalized cultural messaging, and stigma around trauma. Some of the broader influence in film about PTSD is that it gives perspective and associations into how this disability appears in real life, and often creates stigmas or overgeneralizations of this disability. Good and thoughtful portrayals, though, often allow for cultures to build better associations with PTSD. Other cultural perspectives on PTSD are that it's diagnosed most in Western cultures either by DSM-5 standards or some variation of that. It's often rooted in cultural beliefs of distress within other cultures outside of Western, and it's also dependent on access to mental health care, sometimes even within Western culture, but within other outside cultures as well. Within a character in world diagnosis, the results would be very, very similar, since this is an allegory for this setting is an allegory for a future North America in which Western medicine would still be most likely the most prevalent form of medicine, and it is also a very militaristic society. Lastly, these are my references, and thank you.